Welcome to Think Tank, powered by Vodacom. It's a rugby show that's a lot like a summer holiday. It's over far too soon, but you get back to work fired up and fully charged. Tank, talking about fully charged, the South African Conference has only got one team in the playoffs this year, the Stormers, and they got there with a untidy draw against the Lions at Newlands at the weekend.
Oh, they say that a draw is like kissing your sister. Sure, but you've got to have an ugly sister for this to feel like that. It's just the worst possible result.
Yeah.
I mean, you actually couldn't have got anything worse.
Yeah.
Oh, so untidy. But I mean, so glorious from the Lions. I mean, every week, they're like, who wants a Duracell battery? You just give me a Lion.
Give up, eh?
They're just omnipresent. And you just got to admire the guts and courage, But I suppose, it's the same as last year. We only had one side in the playoffs, and then eventually they come unstuck. I think the same will happen this year. I think if the Stormers really wanted to have a chance of going all the way, they needed to put away the Lions at home, and they didn't.
Yeah. Just in terms of the South African Conference, though, a little bit messy in the sense that the Sharks are nowhere on the radar. Bulls have fallen to pieces. The Cheetahs are absolutely nowhere. And, the second best team in the conference was a team that's loaded with guys that are basically Currie Cup players overachieving in the Lions. I mean, what does that say about South African rugby and potentially our chances at the World Cup?
Well, what did we say a couple of weeks back? Dark days for South African rugby, and then suddenly we had a sort of silver lining.
Yeah.
But actually, it's just strange. It's what I've seen on social media as well is that we just haven't embraced SupeRugby. We're a conservative nation. We play conservative rugby. It's a bit like the baby box. It's maak sag voor, and you smash them up front. You get a driving maul line-out try, and that's what South African rugby is about. Whereas SupeRugby, certainly driven by the Kiwis, to a less extent by the Aussies, is more the basketball stuff, as Stephen Jones likes to call it. And it's embracing a ball-in-hand, free-running, score tries kind of game. And it just doesn't seem to work for us, and we haven't embraced it.
Well, I mean, the Kiwis have used that. They've got the bonus point in a lot of games. The Hurricanes have got lots of bonus points, Chiefs and Highlanders, and that's really given them a leg up in the race to the playoffs. South African sides haven't so much, and I know you've done the numbers on this. Where do we stand in terms of the bonus points? Tally.
I mean, it's bloody interesting. So if you took away bonus points, and that is a bit of a contentious issue, the Canes would still be top. I mean, they'd be on 52 points, and they've just owned the season. But the Stormers would be second, and they wouldn't need to require on the charity rule of the three sides from each country being in the top three. So they would be second on 42 points. The Tars would be third on 40. Chiefs and Landers both on 40, and then the Lions.
We're back in the playoffs, baby. We're back in the playoffs.
But that's, in effect, almost the problem.
Yeah.
Because the Lions have only got 4 bonus points, and the Stormers have only got 3 bonus points, whereas Canes 10, Chiefs 8, Tars 7, Landers 8, Brumbies 11.
Right.
So I see there's some grumbling about bonus points, and it should be all about wins. But I mean, let's leave that to the Six Nations.
Yeah.
I think SupeRugby should be about bonus points.
Yeah.
Perhaps the one thing I would change is that you only get your winning bonus point if you're a certain amount of points ahead or a certain amount of tries ahead, because you want people to keep the foot in the accelerator.
Right.
If you get to 4 tries in 20 minutes, like the Tars and the Cheetahs did on Saturday, then your foot goes off the pedal and it almost goes to sleep. So maybe some sort of kind of reward for keeping the foot on the pedal.
Look, it's a conspiracy theory, but I believe that maybe these New Zealand sides agreed to play this sort of high-octane rugby because all the New Zealand sides get bonus points out of it. If 2 teams rock up in Dunedin and say, hey, let's go balls to the wall, let's score 4 tries each, and whoever wins, then the entire New Zealand conference benefits from that. They've got, 3 teams in the playoffs at the moment?
Exactly. Conspiracy theory, yes. I disagree. I think it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just the ethos of rugby in New Zealand.
Right.
They're brought up from a young age to entertain. And they say, well, listen, if you're going to score 3 tries, we'll score 4.
Right.
And I just love it.
Yeah.
I know it's probably not going to be the best agenda for the Rugby World Cup, because that's a totally different animal. But for SupeRugby, that is fantastic. And I just think New Zealand rugby players play the game to entertain and to enjoy it themselves. And they play with smiles on their face,
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Well, I mean, this week we've got the Stormers, or next week we'll have the Stormers in the playoffs. What is your thinking about how they're going to approach the Sharks game in Durban coming up this week? Are they going to chase second place, or what's the deal? They've got a couple of players that they have to rest in line with that Bok resting program.
Indeed, and one of them being Dwayne Vermeulen.
Yeah,
it's a big call. So I hear that Alistair Coetzee, the coach, has said, well, listen, one of the Tars or the Brumbies is going to win. I mean, the Tars have got the Reds in Sydney. If you can't get past that lot, they're in trouble.
Right.
Brumbies a little bit more tricky. They've got Crusaders. But Crusaders now completely out of the 6. Right. Even though, if the Stormers lose and they win, they'll have more points than the Stormers, but the Stormers would be 3rd.
The format.
Because that's the charity rule. It's messy. So I think, you know, the foot's off the accelerator for Alistair. And I think the Stormers will rest as many players as they can, go in with a kind of second string-ish young side, and see what happens in Durban. I mean, the Sharks have had a dreadful season, but they certainly won't be doing South Africa any favours.
The question of the week comes from Rugby, and he wants to know, basically, which tight end prop would you be scared to scrum against?
Great question, He's also a contributor on Vodacom Rugby. So I mean, I don't think I'd be scared to scrum against any of them. I'd love to take them all on, but I presume his question means where we're going at tighthead.
Right.
So it was actually my column last week was about exactly this. And I think, sadly, the time has come for Yanni to depart. I mean, he's been a stalwart.
How are we going to lose that hair? I mean, what are you doing?
And the doctor. Oh no, I say it with tears in my eyes because I actually think, you know, he comes in for so much heat, but, you know, his inability to tackle and carry the ball. But, you know, he's got that right shoulder off the box for so many years.
Yeah.
But Vincent Koch, for me, has been the form tighthead. And I think he deserves a shot. Frans van Herbe is right up there. And then a guy like Julian Redlinghuysen or even Ruan Dreyer. Our stocks at tighthead are really strong.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
Exactly. So, you know, no need for this ridiculous Kuni Oyster as an experiment where they're trying to move him from loosehead to tighthead. We have some proper tightheads in this country, which is fantastic.
Yeah, good game. Maybe 5. That's it for this week, guys. Thanks very much for tuning in to Think Tank. Please keep the questions coming. We need them so that we can test the big fella again next week. Be sure to check out vodacom.co/rugby and use the hashtag ThinkTank for those questions. Take it easy until next time. Ciao.